Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will discuss about Dynamic 365 tool Delta Lake without Azure Data Bricks. Here we are not using Azure Data Bricks Service, but we will create Delta Lake and Delta Lake tables by using Synapse Studio. And the use case is use case and hardware software components and end-to-end testing. In end-to-end testing, I am not showing the demo in the live environment, but I'll give the tested scripts. It is all those scripts already tested and we given to the customer, and I will show you some of the samples for related to those scripts. Let's continue. If you are new to my YouTube channel, please subscribe and click on bell icon so that you will see new videos whenever I uploaded new video, whenever I provided the new concepts or topics related to Azure. Let's jump into the topic. So simple use cases. Currently we see a lot of customers are using Dynamics 365 for their operations, day-to-day operations, like all the modules like inventory, stocks, and finance and operations. So and Dynamic 365 implementation mostly will follow the common data model concept. And in IT services, they provided in IT service organizations, so ideally each service organization, like say vendors who provide the services to the customer, they or have the teams who will provide the Dynamic 365 support as well as the reporting support for them. So ideally same customer is different, but the implementation, actual reporting and in-house built-in tables, everything is same, and only the customizations will be happening on Dynamic 365 objects based on the customer requirements. And most of the customer nowadays wants the reporting and data analytics and with less cost. Now we are using medallion architecture in this Delta Lake implementation, and we'll explain one by one in the coming slides. And our solution contains 4 steps. Step one is the step which will export the Dynamic 365 data into Delta Lake in the CSV data format with the CDM schema. And it is in Dynamic 365 portal we have data modules, and that will support export options, and we need to configure that export option to the data lake whichever we want. And once it is activated and added to the data lake and activated, then it's keep on exporting the updated data to the data lake in the form of CSV format, and the schema is there. And once that data is available in the data lake, and the step 2 is automatically the data is updated in the data lake. We don't want to do anything in the Dynamic 365 options or settings. And the step 3 is we will build a notebook where we can read the data into bronze, silver, and gold layers. And these bronze, silver, and gold layers are different data processing areas as per the medallion architecture. And you can store the raw data into the bronze layer, and some of the processed data or transformed data into silver layer, and you can perform all the upfront transformations before moving to the gold layer in silver layer. And obviously gold layer will contains your final entities or final tables, which is in the form of dimensions and facts as per your design or reporting needs. And once the notebooks is completed, these notebooks we can schedule in the pipelines in Synapse Studio to make it as automated or schedules runs based on our business requirements. Now for this implementation, define 3 containers in the same storage account or each container different storage account. Depends on person choice and it won't affect any performance or security. Simply I will create three different storage accounts for each layer, or I can create three folders or three containers in one storage account. So only maintenance has some impact if you define three storage accounts instead of one. So I define three folders in the same storage account. One is bronze layer, silver and gold layer, and my storage account will be Delta Lake test.tfs core.windows.net and Delta identification. So all the Delta tables in Dynamic 365 we can identify based on the rec ID or Delta Lake underscore timestamp. This Delta Lake underscore timestamp will be there for almost all the tables. Now coming to implementation of bronze layer, and as you said, this is the sample tested code, piece of code where you can see that storage account name we need to define, and then path is the path where data lake export is happened to the Dynamic 365 export is happened to the data lake, and Dynamic 365 is the portal ID and tables, and then it is a custom.manifesto.cdm. And once it is done, we are creating a Spark data frame by using the format.com.microsoft cdm format, and here option is storage account name, manifesto path. This manifesto is like you will have multiple entities for one manifesto file based on the structure defined at the Dynamic 365. So if CDM file is having more than one entity, then you can specify the entity name, or if it has one entity also you can specify the entity name. And once the data frame is created, we are writing the data frame by using merge schema option in the delta format to the bronze layer of data lake. Once the data is created as a delta table, and then we are creating an external entity in the SQL serverless database, and we are calling that as app underscore lake db underscore bronze dot entity name. If entity is customer, then it will be bronze dot customer table. And this is the sample script how to create the external table based on the created delta format. After bronze layer, we will come to the silver layer, and all the bronze layer objects, whatever the tables is created in the bronze layer, then we can call it as a raw data or raw tables. And in silver layer, we will implement the query on raw tables and do the joins or transformations, which is if required. Then we will prepare the SQL query, and then we can run that SQL query in the spark.sql. That will create the data frame, and similarly that data frame we will store into the silver layer folder of the same storage account with the entity name whatever we want in the silver layer. And once the entity is created in the silver layer, we are creating the external table for the silver layer for that entity. And if you see the syntax spark.sql drop table if exist, we app underscore lake db underscore silver dot entity name, and if there is any entity it will drop. And then we are creating another table and in the silver layer with the same entity name by using the same location which is used in the delta lake format in the above. And coming to gold layer, and first run we need to run this every time. If we are creating any new object in the gold layer, first we need to run this code snippet which will create the delta lake table, an external table first for the first time. Later second run onwards you can do the delta updates for the existing table. So here we will go with the first how to create the table in the gold layer. It is similar as what you created in the silver layer, and you need to prepare a query on silver layer tables, and that query will execute by using Spark SQL, and that will create a data frame. And once the data frame is created, you need to write the data frame data into delta option and with the path whatever we defined in the slide. So once the data is written to the delta lake format, we need to create an external table in the code layer. Now we are creating two spark.sql statements. One will drop if the same entity is existing in the code layer schema, and the second one will create the same entity using the delta lake location provided in the above code. Now once the first time the table is created, this is the code you need to run, and you need to run the same query on the source data whatever you written in the first code and first code snippet, and then you need to create an data frame by running that query with spark.sql. And then once the data frame is created, you need to create a temporary view on the data frame, and once the temporary view is available, then you can query the delta lake tables which are there in gold layer and this with view. So what we written is we written a merge statement for the customers using source data set. The source data set where we are collecting all the data set where delta lake modified underscore date time is greater than or equivalent. Select a max data lake modified underscore date time from the existing gold customer table in gold layer, and it will collect the maximum delta lake modified date time from the existing gold layer table, and it will pick up all the data which is greater than or equivalent from the source view. And then once the data set is available, it will match the rec id. So based on the rec id, when match is there, it will update the set star, and if not match, then it will perform the insert star. Update set star is it will update all the columns one to one here. Suppose in my target table I have 50 columns, then update set will update all the 50 columns. If no match, then I'll all the 50 columns inserted as a new record. Okay, and here some of the customers will ask questions like how to add a column to the existing table. So it is not within the existing scenario where we are not using Azure Data Bricks. We can't create any table with the partitions and then load the data. So these are external tables, and whenever any column we need to add to the existing table, then you need to run the full load again and then add the column, and then you need to drop the existing table, and you need to perform the first step always whenever any new column is coming. So here you don't